messengers, prophets, apostles of the past, we find that the people always that did not believe in them considered them to be liars. And God that sent them also was never believed by these opponents of the prophets of the past. They always criticized and mocked and shameful things said about them and criticized to the world in order that the world may see them and understand them as they really is, as disbelievers in God and in His messengers and in the message in which they bring. And they will say that he has forged it, or he did this of himself. But this third verse warns us that it is the truth from our Lord, that the messenger may warn a people to whom no warner has come before, that they may walk upright. Here I would like to say to you that the evil plannings and the evil talk of disbelievers and hypocrites of the apostles and prophets of the past always come to an end and was destroyed by divine judgment against them. You see today that these things now are coming to pass, as I have been preaching to you for 33 long years. And you know that I have taught you the truth. Today you would like to take God's place and judge me unworthy of His messenger. You fallen and deceivers and disbelievers desires all these things today. This is the time that you should burst forth in your rage against the truth and the truth bearer, the messenger of Allah, that God may make you an example to the world that He is with me, Elijah Muhammad, and that you are with the devil, whom that you probably didn't know and don't know now, maybe, until the chastisement of Almighty God overtake you suddenly, as it has taken those who was before like you suddenly. When you think not, it come upon you and will destroy you. I say, this kind of chastisement doesn't take the life out of you, but bring you to shame and disgrace, as you wish that your wicked tongue and language would do for the messenger. God just reverses it and brings it upon you, and then make you to live in despair and want. He makes you to live in grief and sorrow until you're brought to the grave. This God Almighty gives to you an example about 1935 here in Chicago by a brother of mine whom I had trusted to be my own brother believer in Almighty God Allah and His religion Islam. Many of the Chicagoans saw the chastisement upon that brother of mine at that time, whose name came from Almighty God Allah.
The very words, to whom no warner has come before, that they put in a book that is called the last revelation of Allah to the people, could not mean Mecca. The last warner and the last people to whom prophets in the truth have never come to are the same people that the Bible and the Holy Quran refer to as being blind, deaf, and dumb, and mentally dead, who must be resurrected before there can be a judgment of the wicked. No people answer this description better than the American so-called Negroes. And there's no country that better represents that description of where no prophets have been sent than America. As far back as history takes us in reference to America, we find no prophet of Allah preaching Islam or warning the people of the Western Hemisphere of a coming judgment and to submit to the will of Allah that they may be saved from the destruction of that day. It is America. The prayer of Abraham does not refer to the raising up of a prophet in Arabia, but of a prophet among that particular seed or people of his who must be searched for, located, and found. A teacher must be given to them from Allah to teach and warn them of a purpose of Allah and the purpose of the messenger being raised among them. The Bible gives us a very clear prophecy and knowledge of this particular last messenger in many places. It is that he is the first and the last who will be among the people, because they would be the only and the last people who would be without the guidance of Allah at the end of the world and must be guided into the path of Allah if they are to be saved from the destruction of the enemies of Allah who had deceived and now hold that people in bondage, the true descendants of Ishmael, of whom Ishmael himself was a prototype, and his mother, the outcast. Happy Monday. Welcome back to On the Shoulders of Giants. I am Joseph Ward, and I am continuing my reading and review of Message to the Black Man in America by Elijah Muhammad. And this is the chapter, Hypocrites, Disbelievers, and Obedience. We need not have fear for the future. And starting off with the clip, he's talking about hypocrites, disbelievers, and obedience. Hypocrites within the movement is destructive. If you're going to believe in it, believe in it. If you don't believe in it, you don't believe in it. But I do think there is room for growth. Now, in the video and throughout this chapter, Elijah Muhammad is basically referring to hypocrites or disbelievers as people who have showed that they believe or looked as if they believed in Islam or the Nation of Islam, or even believed in Elijah Muhammad and his words, or him being a messenger of Wallace Fard. But from what I'm reading, it seems as if there's little room for growth or for the evolution of one's thinking or their thoughts. And I get it, because belief and religion they go hand in hand. It's important to have belief when you're following a particular religion, because without belief, it will be hard for that religion to continue. I do think nothing is absolute, and there are different messages, there are different prophets. We'll use those words. There are different messages, there are different prophets, and different people have their different ways of going about getting there. I always say, the many different belief systems are many different vehicles that people use to get to the end, right? Or to get to God, right? So, but particularly what Elijah Muhammad is talking about is, if you're going to follow Islam, follow Islam. There's no deviating from the past, because he believes Islam is the way for the Negro in America. You remember, it's based off of his belief that there's no other way for the Negro in America outside of Islam. And if you have shown yourself as a follower of Islam, or more specifically, a follower of the Nation of Islam, which would include a follower of Elijah Muhammad, and you deviate away from the path, then you will be seen as a hypocrite or a non-believer, because this is the only way he believes this is the only way that the black man in America can be free and saved from overall destruction from Allah, which he believes. And I cut the clip off when I did because I'm not about being messy over here, and I'm not saying Elijah Muhammad is being messy, but I didn't want it to come. I didn't want the clip and everything to come off as perceived messiness or getting into some drama or shots. So I will put the link to that video in the description so you can see particularly who he's talking about, because even in this chapter, there's rhetoric where he's speaking of a specific person who he feel is a hypocrite and who feel he deceived him. You're going to have to do your own research to figure out who he's talking about. I know who he's talking about, but you're going to have to do your own research to see who he's talking about. But it comes back down to being able to build a solid foundation, because I'm thinking about it from us. So being able to build a solid foundation to grow upon for Black people in America. What we believe matters. What we believe will either help us or hurt us getting to the finish line. What we know is the main vehicle to help us get to where we're going. And what we understand is the fuel, right? Belief, knowledge, understanding. Belief is the spark. Knowledge is the vehicle and understanding is the fuel. So if you look at it like that, I think for us now in 2024, that's the way we need to look at it, because we have enough information and time and evidence to show that just straight belief is not, it doesn't help. Just straight belief doesn't help. Belief has to be a part of the structure of knowledge and understanding. I would say that. So Elijah Muhammad has a particular way that he views religion, a particular way that he views Islam, and a particular way that he views the followership of it. And so this is what we're getting into, but we're also thinking about how does this relate to us in 2024? And we're also thinking about how relevant is the information to us, because now that doesn't mean I think information is irrelevant, but what it means is I want to spark more critical thinking of all of us as we're reading this information. How does it apply, and how many ways does it apply, and what does that application look like? So let's think about it in those ways. So continue my reading, page 250, the second paragraph. There are many erroneous mistakes made by the scholars and scientists that have caused much misunderstanding of the truth. There are many Arabs throughout the world who cannot bear witness to anyone that another messenger would rise up after Muhammad, who was here nearly 1400 years ago. This is due to their misunderstanding of the Holy Quran and the scriptures of the prophets Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and even Muhammad himself. They forget that the Bible prophesies of a lost member of the nation of the original people of earth, who would be lost somewhere on the earth. But neither the Bible nor the Holy Quran specifies the place. The nearest the Bible comes to it is that they would be lost in the wilderness. And so he believes, because he goes on to say, that fits America. And Moses says that God told him in Deuteronomy 18:18, I will raise them up a prophet from among thy brethren like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth and shall speak into them all that I command. This is an answer or a prophecy that comes with the prayer of Abraham, that God raised up a messenger from among them and taught him the wisdom of the book, because his people would not have knowledge of the book and were only guessing at its meaning. The book is referring to the Bible, that they were guessing at its meanings. And two things in this: guessing at the meanings and his belief of the lost in the wilderness. if we really look at the diaspora, especially the diaspora that was created through the slave trade, lost in the wilderness could be a whole bunch of black people throughout the Western Hemisphere, you know. So, but I get it though. I get it choosing to focus on black people in America because this is where we are. And this is where we are. And we're dealing with the history of America and our history in America. But if we're going to be factual, you know, we're thinking about, you know, lost in the wilderness could be black people who were enslaved in Australia, you know, South Pacific, you know, Venezuela, Panama, and, you know, Brazil, many different places. So it's perspective on how you're looking at it. But with understanding, the perspective comes from this is where we were enslaved. This is where we are a people who have no connection to the continent outside of our skin color and what we know about African history. There are a few of us who can actually connect themselves back to the continent. I've met a number of people lately, a number of Black American people who are able to trace their lineage back to the continent, from what they tell me. But the majority of us cannot do that. So in that sense, yes, we are lost in the wilderness. We're lost in a new world, right? Because we weren't. But that can apply to a lot of Black people throughout the diaspora as well. But focusing on Black people in America, right? But also it's talking about the messengers being raised up from among the people. That is important. That is important because if you think about it, he's reminding us that America continues to give us our heroes. And a lot of us don't even think twice about it. America gives us our heroes. And then we cry about no progress. Continuing to accept people who are giving to us and people who are raised up as heroes by our oppressors. Think about it. But even if your messenger or your hero comes from within, that person still has to have integrity. That person still has to have truth in their heart. Because what we know about COINTELPRO, because that has to be factored into where we are today in America, what we know about COINTELPRO is anybody within can be manipulated by that which is without, which is COINTELPRO. Okay, so picking up third paragraph, page 251. So shall it be with the last messenger. His people must be taught about the true God and that God's true religion, which the slave masters did not teach them. The Holy Quran backs up the truth of Allah, that he always raises an apostle from among a people whom he would warn. So if Allah would warn America and the poor slaves who have been blinded and made deaf and dumb by their masters, should not that messenger be one of the so-called Negroes instead of a so-called Negro trying to learn from what Muhammad said to the Arabs nearly 1,400 years ago? This is a guide for us today. It does not stop there. And so I do agree with that. He says, if Allah would warn America and the poor slaves who have been blinded and made deaf and dumb by their masters, should not that messenger be one of the so-called Negroes? Right. The messenger should be somebody who's of us, of this time, and who is knowledgeable and educated of what's going on now, but even knowledgeable and educated about what happened in the past. So it's not settling on what happened in the past, but being up to date on what's affecting us now. And that's important. That's why I keep saying, how is it relevant to us here in 2024? Anybody who is claiming to be a leader, they have to understand where we are in this day and time, and everything that they're telling us has to be relevant to where we are in this day and time, unless they're wasting our time. We have to have something more. Therefore, a Holy Quran prophesies of another scripture being given, and the Bible who prophesies of another scripture being given in the name of the judgment, because the Holy Quran takes us up to the resurrection of the dead, but not beyond that. And that goes back to chapters in the past where Elijah Muhammad is talking about he believes a new book and a new messenger needs to be given to us for where we are today in America. Because as he says, the Quran and the Bible only takes us up to a certain point. But what is after that? And that's where the belief of a new book, a new messenger, you know, is coming about. Still under their belief, still under the umbrella of Allah, from what he's saying. But it has to be a new book. It won't be the Bible, it won't be the Quran, it won't be the Torah. It'll be something new, something that directs us, the black people in America, to our liberation. Warning a people whom no warner has come before, that they may walk aright. It is directed at the American so-called Negroes in North America, as Jesus comes close to revealing the whereabouts of the lost members of the great nation in these words, that he was sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, or in the house of Israel. He did not say that he was sent to the lost Israel, but to the lost sheep in the house of Israel. The lost sheep are not Israel. The lost sheep were in the house or government of Israel and were swallowed up by Israel so thoroughly that they were always overlooked. But we cannot just overlook the prophecy of Ezekiel, wherein he prophesies that God said, even I will go search for them, and I will bring them again and settle them in their own land and among their own people. So this is Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad believes that the Quran and the Bible are talking about us here in America. He believes it is the revelation of what has happened to us here in America and what the future of us will be in America. So looking at us as the lost sheep. Now, what's interesting about that, though, I know that because it reminded me of what I want to say about that. It's interesting because it goes back to a breakdown video we did talking about the black identity here in America. Because the black identity, the black American identity has changed so much, or it has a lot of different theories that goes into who we are. Sitting here February of 2024, I've heard that we are of Islam, we're Hebrew Israelites, we are the Native Americans, we are the Mayans, we were all here before slavery, we're all here after slavery, we're the Moors. You know, there are a lot of different theories about the identity of the black people in America. I think there's good and bad into that. I think the good will just go to the diversity of the diaspora, but the bad is because of it, it hinders us from working as one and seeing ourselves as one and seeing some commonality amongst us. It's like, yes, I know we all have black skin, and we know we all have the same history, and we know we all have the same enemy, but we have to find some point of contention because you don't believe what I believe. And I think we're all too old to be under the mindset of, I can't rock with you if you don't believe 100% of what I believe. I can't rock with you if we disagree on some things. And that right there is part of the problem that's keeping us separated. I'm not going to fight with anybody of how they choose to identify themselves or what they believe their identity or the identity of Black America as a whole is. I'm not going to argue back and forth with you. I just ask you to look at the results of you thinking your way and me thinking my way and us not working together. Let's look at the results. It's February 2024, and we still have the same issues we had in 1824, in 1924. Still got the same issues, but we all want to land. The hill we choose to die on is how different we are. instead of what we can do to work together. That's just what that reminded me of. Beware of false prophets. So now we're getting knee deep into what these hypocrites are and what he believes the hypocrites are. A hypocrite is a person who is disliked by everyone, whether he be a hypocritical wife, husband, parent, son, or daughter. The hypocrite is unwanted. You can never trust hypocrites. They are liars. They are worse than disbelievers, because a disbeliever has not lied, saying that he believed and then turned back. This makes hypocrites the most hated of all people. The Holy Quran repeatedly warns the believers against hypocrites. Let us quote the 9th verse of chapter 2 of the Holy Quran, which reads like this. They seek to deceive Allah and those who believe, and they deceive only themselves, and they perceive not. When they come in, they hope to make Allah think that they are believers, and on their leaving, sincerely ask to deceive the true believers, so that they may turn them against Allah, the messenger, and the truth that he has brought. They are mockers of the believers and say that they believe, but yet they are mockers of true believers. The 15th verse of chapter 2 says of them, Allah will pay them back for their mockery, and he leaves them alone in their inordinacy, blindly wandering on. The Holy Quran reads in Surah 63:1, when the hypocrites come to thee, they say, we bear witness that thou art indeed Allah's messenger, and Allah knows that thou art indeed his messenger. And Allah bears witness to the hypocrites are surely liars. They take shelter under the oaths, thus turning men from Allah's way. Surely evil is that which they do. That is because they believe, then disbelieve, thus their hearts are sealed, so they understand not. And one thing he's going to get into is like the people who believed in Allah, then disbelieved, Allah sealed their hearts, minds, eyes, ears, so they cannot come back to being a believer. But once again, he's also hinting at not just a particular person, but people who may have left the Nation of Islam, or people who may have strayed away from Islam as a whole. Once again, that's not my fight. You know how I feel about blind belief. I promote critical thinking. I promote knowledge and understanding. I don't promote blind belief. So that's not my fight to say whether. That's not my fight to try to disprove what he's saying or not. That's not why we're here to disprove anything. We're here to get the meat off the bones. So, but just understanding that their thoughts and their feelings and ideas on hypocrites and how hypocrites can be destructive, and taking that further step, going into understanding hypocrites of a movement can be destructive. Think about what we're trying to do. Think about Black people who say that they are for the liberation of Black people, but they are the COINTELPRO people. They are the infiltrators. They are the ones who, on the surface, they're for us, but in their hearts, they're against us, because in their minds and their hearts, they are here to destroy. They are here to cause deception. They are here to cause dissension. That's why we got to screen and continue to screen and validate everybody who claims to be down with what we down with, because we have a history of the hypocrisy that goes on. So that what he's talking about just reminds me of today. Whatever we build, we must protect. And when we're talking about protecting, we must protect from the infiltration as well. Protection means more than just, being able to defend yourself in physical combat. Protection is keeping yourself safe on all fronts, including infiltration, including the hypocrisy. This particular group, the hypocrites, should always be watched by the believers. They are very deceitful and must be opposed by all means. They are not to be eliminated, for Allah desires to make them examples for others by chastising them like a parent does his child. He chastises one with the strap to warn the other not to disobey. After a divine chastisement, of the hypocrites. They are turned into the doom of the real enemies, the devils. That is why the Holy Quran speaks of them as inmates of the fire of hell. The messenger is warned not to be easy with the hypocrites, but to be hard against them. Read chapter 66, verse 10, as well as chapter 66, verse 9, which even warns the messenger that there were prophets who had hypocritical wives. This makes it clear to us that not only the common people can have a hypocrite in the family, but also the families of prophets. Because of this, some people will think you are weak. They will say, oh, if his wife does not believe him, he must not be the messenger of God. If his sons and daughters do not believe him, they say, he should know more about him than we do. He must not be the messenger. But this does not mean that the messenger is not the true one. Jesus prophesies that the truth will cause separation in the family. Mothers and fathers believing with children disbelieving, and children believing with mothers and fathers disbelieving. And once again, that goes back to the dissension that could be in the ranks from the narratives that are being spread. So he's saying hypocrites, disbelievers, non-believers can be anybody. But how does that taint the validity of the messenger? That means those people don't believe. That means those people have not brought into the messenger of the messenger. That's what he's getting at. So how does one validate the messenger? Dog, in the comments, tell me, how does one validate the messenger if even the people closest to that messenger are disbelievers of the messenger? So this is page 255. Is titled on hypocrites. A hypocrite, regardless to where he appears or regardless to what organization he may be a member of, whether a governmental hypocrite or an industrial hypocrite, a business hypocrite or a religious hypocrite, is the most unwanted and hated of all people concerned. They're also the most hated by God. They are double crosses. They come in claiming belief and then go out disbelieving. I do not beg anyone to believe me, because it is not allowed by Allah for a messenger to beg people to believe in Allah and his word of truth. Neither take him or an angel for a prophet. This is absolutely immaterial on a prophet's part. They seek to judge the messenger of God. They seek to bring him into the courts of the infidels to be judged by them, while the Bible and the Holy Quran warn you against trying to be the judge of a messenger of God in these words, who he is that judges another man's servant. Who is he that judges another man's servant? The Holy Quran repeatedly warns the disbelievers and hypocrites that Allah is sufficient as a judge of his messenger. And by no means will he let those who molest and seek to destroy his messenger with their tongues and their hands for no good reason. Once again, how do you validate the messenger? Because there has to be a way to validate the messenger in 2024. There has to be a way to validate the messenger. We have to go beyond belief, because we know just settling at belief can be detrimental and will be detrimental to our future. So what do we know and what do we understand, and how can we use that to validate the messenger? Allah is a friend, and I am a friend that he has caused to rise among you. The poor black people of America who have suffered every injustice that man could suffer and are still suffering today. The enemy cannot be but a hypocrite who will now try to change to offer you friendship. The same enemy who fought and killed you yesterday cannot turn overnight and become your friend. Be warned and be careful of how you deviate and follow such evil-tongued people as you see now appearing, for in a few days God will destroy them with all those whom destruction and justice is due. May Allah pour upon the hypocrites the chastisement that he poured upon my mother's son, my own brother, who rose up against me in 1935 and joined himself with those who were bent upon taking life away. This was for no cause other than jealousy and envy of my mission. May Allah strike them with terror and grief that they may not rest day or night, for they return to me evil for good. I have been better to them than they were to themselves. Let Allah judge. Let Allah judge between me and the hypocrites and disbelievers who take Allah and his messenger and religion for mockery. And that goes back to the last part of the clip when he was hinting at the person that he was speaking of that double crossed him and he sees as a hypocrite. And once again, I put the link to that video in the description so you can listen and see who he's talking about. So there has to be room for growth, but belief is, that's why I say belief is limited. Belief is limited because I could believe one thing, right? I believe, let's use Santa Claus as the example. The example is when I was 4 years old, I believed in Santa Claus. Now I never believed, but that's the example. I'm 4 years old, I believe in Santa Claus. I'm 5 years old, I believe in Santa Claus. 6 years old, I believe in Santa Claus. 7 years old, I believe in Santa Claus. 8 on to 9. My 10th birthday, I am presented with evidence of the contrary that I cannot dispute. That proves that Santa Claus does not exist. Do I continue to believe, or do I evolve with the new information that I have that brings upon new understanding? Now, does this cause dissension within the organization that you're a part of? It can cause dissension if belief is what we should be hanging upon, because belief is here, but knowledge and understanding goes here. So now I'm not going to try to get to try to understand and break down Elijah Muhammad's dissension with the gentleman that he's talking about. But what I am talking about is evolution of thought on our end in 2024. That's what I'm referring to. Evolution of thought due to the presentation of new information. So with this new information, I now have a choice. I can continue to believe what I believed, or I can evolve with the information that has been presented to me. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I believe in an evolution of thought. We should always be growing. Beware of false promises. The government only wants to pacify her once slaves with fancy false promises that she knows she cannot fulfill without the loss of friendship and bloodshed among her own people. But there is nothing like a good future in these rosy promises for the so-called Negroes. Why should the government hinder us? And it's election season time, round 2. So those words rang true, especially around election time, with the Democrats and the Republicans vying for the black vote. The Democrats, hey man, y'all always voted for us. So I mean, why not vote for us? Y'all already voted for us. The Republicans, the Democrats have never done anything for you. I mean, we haven't done anything for you either, but we haven't promised you that we'll do anything for you. But the Democrats have promised you that they will do things for you, and they've never done those things for you. Now, we're not liars like they are. They have been lying to you forever, but we're not liars. Now, we have never done anything for you. That is the truth. The truth is we've never done anything. We've never had to do anything for you. But if you vote for us, then we'll think about doing something for you, maybe. I don't know. But the Democrats are liars. That's what we're dealing with. We want some of this earth and its treasures of raw materials to build us an independent nation as you and other nations have. We want to live in peace. It is impossible to get along with you in peace, for you cannot even get along with each other in peace. We were created of the essence of peace, while you were created of the essence of evilness, and evilness you will always do to either yourselves or others. That unlawful day of yours will surely come. the appointed hour. You are hasting by your evil intentions and doing to us, the poor black people, we who have given our sweat and blood all our lives today. We cry for justice, and you send your armed forces with trained dogs to eliminate us. It is written of you. Yet ye have condemned and eliminated the just, and he doth not resist you. You send armies of heavily armed policemen to eliminate the unarmed so-called Negroes. Does this act of elimination of unarmed people show that you are brave or cowards? You, like your fathers, hate and despise your slaves, and you beat and eliminate them daily. And after such inhumane treatment, you want them to love you so that you can carry out your evil doings on them without resistance. The beating and elimination of those among us who say they are Muslims is most surely hasting your doom. You hate them because Allah has revealed the truth of you to them, and you are angry to seek and take revenge on them for what Allah has made known to them of truth. There is no solution to the problem between the slave masters and their slaves other than the once slaves are going for self, for they have become a nation in a nation. One or the other must leave, or the other suffer death. So if you believe that America, if you still believe today in 2024 that America would do anything to uplift and empower us, I question your intelligence. I mean, at this point, your intelligence has to be in question. There's so much evidence in the far past and in the near past. This current administration is showing you that the government ultimately is not about the empowerment of black people. Now, people will say, well, Trump gave us stimulus checks. Trump got black people out of jail. Well, no. Trump gave America stimulus checks, and the specific people who Trump, black people particularly, who Trump got out of jail, were entertainers. So the Republicans themselves didn't do anything for black people either. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by the narratives that are spent by those who the bar is low for them. So any little handout is a victory for them in comparison to the Democrats. But we're not comparing the Republicans to the Democrats, because we see them all as the same, because we all know birds have two wings, right? So stimulus checks and getting Kodak Black and other rappers and stuff out of jail does not qualify Trump or any other Republicans as allies or for black people, as doing anything for black people. The American government has showed that they are for the upliftment of the American ideal. And if you are outside of the American ideal and you expect the American government to uplift you and empower you, you are sadly mistaken. You are miseducated and you are foolish. America, if we really want to be real, America owes us nothing. America owes us nothing because we lost the battle. We lost the war. And the conditions that we're in are the result of losing the war. And then after losing the war, never finding freedom. So America owes us nothing. We owe ourselves everything. If we want something different, we got to be different, and we got to do something different. We have to operate different. My followers here in America and the hypocrites among them are now being manifested to be the same as all others in the past. The hypocrites utter the same words: make mockery of the messenger and his followers, and plan to do harm to us, just as the hypocrites of the past did all other messengers and their followers. The Holy Quran says To the last apostle, all apostles before you were mocked and called liars, but Allah reminds the last apostle to think of his disapproval of other hypocrites and disbelievers. And that last piece goes into being able to recognize the true messengers, the true leaders, and the false messengers and the false leaders. We have many people of our hue and of our race, our culture, of our background, who claim to be for us, who are of us, but their actions don't line up. So that's where belief ends and knowledge and understanding kicks in, right? Because belief can only go so far. Belief will have you running behind people who have no idea what they're doing. And we can see that to this day. Belief will have you caught up in cults. Belief will have you just doing all the silliest things because you've never thought about it. It's crazy to think that we have adults who go around using words and speaking on concepts and just repeating things and have never put critical thinking into it. That's dangerous and destructive. Don't be a robot. Don't be a blind follower. I'm not saying belief should not exist. But what I'm saying is if you solely rest on belief, you won't win. You will definitely come out on the losing end of whatever you're pursuing. If it's just truly about belief. What about knowledge? What about understanding? I believe this person is a good person, while all on the other hand, this person is stealing from me and damning my character. But I believe this person is a good person, but the truth is this person's actions are destructive to me. The difference between belief and knowledge and truth. Belief and truth are not the same things. So from this we're gathering, yes, hypocrites do exist. Yes, non-believers do exist. Yes, disbelievers do exist. Yes, COINTELPRO, all of those things. We want to be able to protect ourselves against the hypocrites, the non-believers, and the traitors and the treasonous. We want to be able to protect ourselves from that. But we want to be able to have room for growth. If we only settle on belief, I believe anybody who only wants people to settle on belief has an overall agenda. I want you to think for yourselves. That's the meat that I'm getting off this bone, is to think for yourselves. Don't just get caught up in belief. Disbelievers and non-believers can hamper an organization. We're not encouraging disbelief. We're encouraging deeper thought, deeper understanding of what we believe in, so we can be better at what we believe in and be better people. We can grow and we can glow and we can go and we can win and we can be a strong nation of people. Being able to deflect as much deception and treason as possible from inside and outside. So that was hypocrites, disbelievers, and obedience from pages 248 to 263. So our next reading will be the judgment on universal corruption, page 265 to 305. 265 to 305 for the next video. So make sure you tune in. Remember, link is in the description. I'm gonna put the link in the description for the original, for the clip, for the Elijah Muhammad clip, so you can get further understanding on that. But hey, we're almost at the end of the book. Where we at? Judgment is judgment is the second to the last chapter. They got the judgment and then the answer to the critics. So we're almost done with this book. We're almost done with this book. It's almost time to choose our next book to read. And so, let's continue what we're doing. Message to the Black Man. A link to get your copy of the book. If you haven't gotten your copy by now, you really tripping. You really tripping. You really on that book. Go ahead and get your copy and, get your read on. And I'll give you my overall assessment of the book on the last video. So, love you all. Make sure y'all catch the next video coming up.